Hamakini, Homoya Bemi, Nishinanim and Miwakami, Lidam Lily Yapemi, Daspa Hedidi. Hi everybody, this is Shelly Covert. I'm the spokesperson for the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe, and I am also the executive director of our nonprofit, which is called CHIRP, the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project. So I'm coming to you today as part of an offering for what is now being called Indigenous Peoples Day. And, you know, this is, I think it's been a long time coming for our tribe to really embrace this day and this action of Indigenous Peoples Day. I think we've always been a lot more comfortable working, working in the context of November, which California has set aside as Native American Heritage Month. And, you know, I was thinking about this a lot, trying to think of what I could talk to you today about in this video in the context of Indigenous Peoples Day. And I really tried to have a conversation with myself. I have some barriers around this and some issues with Indigenous Peoples Day, and I tend to shy away from it instead of like so many other tribes are really jumping in 100% and passing policy and having proclamations read in their towns and their cities to really erase that connection with Columbus Day and instead embrace the indigenous people from whom were so harmed by Columbus. If you have taken some time to really read about Columbus, you know, who I grew up believing was a hero. He was an American figure. You know, he found this country. Once you start learning about Columbus, about the mission he was on when he came looking for a different place and accidentally discovered, you know, the Americas, you realize that a lot of the things that my generation anyway, I can really only speak for myself, that what I learned about Columbus was not true. You know, and I'm editing myself as I speak because some people are still very proud of Columbus and celebrate Columbus Day, deeply associated with America and the founding of America. And so I'm coming to this moment where, you know, I'm realizing, yes, of course, that's awesome. It's great. I'm absolutely on board for getting rid of Columbus Day and, you know, continuing to tout him as this, oh, you know, this guy, this hero that I learned that he was when I was in school. And I think what it comes down to is that, you know, I feel that I just didn't want to be associated with him at all. And therefore, converting that day when that person, just changing it over to Indigenous Peoples Day, didn't ever feel, it didn't feel right to me. You know, it's like, well, if we're going to get a day, it should be a day, a national holiday for the Native American tribes in America to celebrate. We should all celebrate this land that we all call America today, that we love, where we live. I would want our own day. Maybe I felt like Columbus Day had been a little tainted or a little soiled. So it's taken me a while to really come to embrace the opportunity to speak about some of the social and racial justice issues in Columbus Day, in that conversation, surrounding that conversation, and surrounding everything that's going on in our country today. So with that being said, you know, I've seen other tribes. I'm in California, Northern California. So I'm seeing the amazing advocacy work that other tribes around me are doing. And they are really taking this moment and leveraging this opportunity to rename and kind of take back Columbus Day. And the strange thing is that throughout my life, my birthday is on October 10th. So every so often, my birthday lands on Columbus Day. And so it's been something, it's really funny. Life is funny, isn't it? It's been something that has been like in my face and attached to me, whether I like it or not. And as I got older and I started feeling a little icky about Columbus himself and the falseness of the stories that I'd been taught growing up in school, it's something I really need to decide, like, how I personally feel about that. And then speaking with the tribe and understanding what their feelings are around the repurposing, I guess you could call it, the repurposing of Columbus Day for Native Americans across the nation. So what does that mean? Yeah, I think it's great. I sometimes now I'm kicking myself. It's like, geez, I wish I would have had this conversation with myself a few years ago, to really push a movement here in Nevada County, where we're living in Nevada City in Grass Valley, and been one of the people who fought, I guess, for this taking back of this day. But that's not the way it is. And I do feel like I'm a bit behind the curve because it's taken me a while to really jump on board. But I see, I mean, it's undeniable, the passion that is in this movement to, let's call it Indigenous Peoples Day. So I really, you know, I wanted to come today and talk a little bit about that. I wanted to share, you know, I guess some people, yeah, I guess this is prompted by, I've had so many communications in the last week asking if our tribe is doing anything to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And maybe I'm just not ready to celebrate that yet. I'm a little behind the curve, like I said. But I am embracing the opportunity. And I'm embracing the fact that this is something that we could undo right now. Because the longer Columbus Day remains Columbus Day, it's perpetuating the harm. It perpetuates the lie that we were taught in school, promoting somebody who is a very, the things that he did to the Native people that he encountered were some of the ugliest things I've read about. The treatment, the horrible, just violent and depraved way that, you know, that his first encounters with these people, how ugly and disgusting it was. And, you know, I love America. I truly believe in this American dream of what it's supposed to be. I could sit here and point out for probably quite a bit of time the places where I think we're missing the mark. But that dream is alive for me in my heart. And having the knowledge that we idolize or make a hero out of somebody like that is very disturbing. So at the very least, changing that and taking his name off of something that we celebrate and that we actually have a federal holiday around just seems like it's way past time to move on from that, that tale, that fib, to be, you know, as respectful as I possibly can to the people who still very much celebrate Columbus Day in the way that they do. So what ways, you know, I thought a good way to talk about Indigenous Peoples Day, each tribe is doing it a little differently, and people are doing calls to action and, you know, really getting the word out about their own geographic areas, what's happening in their tribes, what do they need support with, what are the areas that are, you know, we don't want more Standing Rock situations where the Native people are there putting their bodies and lives on the line to protect water, animals, nature, the things that, you know, we continuously see across the map. Native people who, I mean, I would say it's probably not something we could argue, that some of the people who have the least in the country are the ones standing up to protect what they have left and what matters most, which is the land, the water, the air, the people. So how can I not see this and take an opportunity to share, because people are listening? And that would be to squander an opportunity that we just can't afford to squander, when people are actually reaching out and saying, what are you guys doing? Do you have something to opinionate about? And not take that opportunity would just be, really, I would not be doing my job as a tribal leader, and I wouldn't be helping my tribal community at all by not responding with something. So thusly this video where I'm just really kind of opening up and sharing. It's a little bit complex sometimes. A friend of mine had said, why don't you guys get your own day? You know, that's not, as I use the word, kind of tainted by the history and legacy of Columbus. You know, that would be great. I don't think the federal government would, they're not quite to the point where they are ready to create a new federal holiday for Indigenous people here on this continent. I don't think we're there yet. But what we can do, yes, let's reappropriate that. Let's grab onto Indigenous Peoples Day, and let's move away from the tale of Columbus that is absolutely bringing glory to somebody who, in my full belief, does not deserve that honor, because he was a very poor moral character, and he was a very cruel person. So here in Nisenan Homelands, from the Nevada City Rancheria point of view, you know, we're working on federal recognition. We were recognized up until 1964. We were terminated by the federal government. Our reservation land was taken and sold at auction, and the people had nothing left. Like, that was the last piece of, you know, pre-colonized Nisenan life. That was it in 1964. And it did not mean that the tribe stopped being. One of the things I continuously find to be astounding is the fabric of my tribal community. They're tenacious. They just don't ever give up. And so we are seeking legislation to get our federal recognition back. And that's a really big deal for us today. It's, you know, with all these years of doing this advocacy work, I find that in an ocean of complexity, for getting legislation through, getting new bills passed, protection of the environment, of the endangered species, healthy management of our forests, all of these things, they can get so complex because there's so many players that are affected by, depending on, you know, if you're trying to bottle water you know, that is American water and you're trying to bottle and sell that water, if you're trying to, you know, extract resource materials from the land, you know, folks who are in that business of doing those things have one side of the fight, and they're going to fight very hard to keep their ability to do those things that they've been doing. And on the other side, you've got people who are seeing this wide destruction of water, of land, depleting and destroying habitat where other beings that aren't humans have the right to live and be. So then you've got, you know, you've got two sides, and there's something to really fight about there on both sides, I would imagine. And this, it's come to my mind that this federal recognition that we seek to be restored to our tribe is actually not one of those fights. This is something that is already created. The federal Indian programs that exist in this country are already there. There's nothing new that has to be shaped or passed or created. Literally, it would mean putting our name, Nevada City Rancheria, back on a list. Like there's the special list of federally recognized tribes, and our name could simply be re-included, added to that list, and our people would be eligible for all of the Indian programs that exist today. They're already funded, they're already out there. Health, education, housing, economic development opportunities. This is an easy thing. So if it's so easy, then what's the problem? You know, that question is my question. It's convincing the people who have the power to do something as simple as put someone's name back on a list. That would mitigate so many of the ailments in our tribal community, and would literally be a safety net for us. Our culture is in critical danger. We don't have any fluent Nisenan speakers today, though we are revitalizing the language. Many of us are students in the language. We're singing songs, telling stories. We just created a children's book in Nisenan language with our linguist, Dr. Shelly. And, you know, we are holding on as tight as we can to not lose anything else in the culture and to keep it alive. And, you know, it's worthy of someone's time and effort to just put our name back on a list where it was at one point in time. And so that's the one thing that's going on. The incredible thing about the Indigenous Peoples Day movement is that it is bringing attention to issues in Indian country. So again, you know, I wonder, like, is it worth, maybe it's because I loathe Columbus, I don't know. It's like, I have such a hard time getting to where I am today because of that. But what a missed opportunity if I couldn't get my head around it. So, you know, I'm getting there. I feel that it was really brought to my attention by how many people asked, are you guys doing anything to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day? And I was like, well, we're not, but I could. I've seen some things are going on in Sacramento where a lot of the tribes in California are coming together and they have calls to action. And I mean, what a great thing. Anything that brings attention to the Native American issues in California and in this country are absolutely on the radar. And I'm so glad that people are paying attention finally. It's been a long time coming. Another thing that we're doing is I think it's really important to look at our nonprofit chirp. The programs and the projects that we've been putting together are all to fulfill the mission to preserve, protect, and perpetuate Nisenan culture. One of the programs that I'm really proud of, it's still really in its pilot phase. It hasn't blossomed out yet, Yet it's got this little life of its own. It's like we wound up the little thing and we set it down, and it's just doing its thing out there. And that's the Ancestral Homeland's Reciprocity program. And this was based on many community members who were aware of what is called the Shumi land tax down in the Bay Area, where the tribes down there are being very creative in ways to find funding and support for their tribal programs and their tribal people. So we started, modeled on that, you know, we started the Ancestral Homelands Reciprocity Program, or ARP as we call it. And this is a way for people living here to donate monthly, whether you have a business, own land, or rent, or just find this to be of value. And it's reoccurring monthly donations to the nonprofit that support our programs, and really to support this, all the work it takes for the federal recognition process. So it's always a learning curve. You know, I'm not educated in any of the things that I do. I mean, I have a high school diploma, I went to a little bit of college, but I started out life as a musician. So everything that comes up that we have to learn about is this huge learning curve. So supporting the federal recognition, obviously it's political. It is learning, like, what does it mean to get a bill passed? I was told for so long that you had to have millions of dollars for lobbyists in Washington, D.C. And that was one of the things that just, you know, hurt my American soul. I still believe in the underdog, and I still believe that this country can do what's right, I hope, without having millions of dollars to purchase your way through Congress. I just don't want that to be real. And I believe that if you can tell the story, a story that's worthy of people's time, and it is all of our shared history here on this land, you know, that some people are just learning. Some people here that live here today in Nevada County, in Grass Valley, the history here starts at the gold rush. Like when gold was discovered, that maybe this was an empty landscape. That we were so erased that as we start to share and educate about our tribe and our long, long history here, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, people aren't aware. And it's because we're not taught in school when we're growing up. This isn't a reality that's shared with our children, with each other. It's not a subject that's talked about. And it's finally being discussed. You know, people are actually talking about the genocide of the California Indians. And I know they're not easy topics, but they're truthful topics. And as long as we don't go into denial or, you know, as long as we can have a good conversation, there's no reason in my mind why these things can't be talked about. And that story, as people learn, I hope especially the people who are leading this country, you know, the people we elect into office, this needs to be in their repertoire of knowledge. I mean, it's America. It's the bones that America was literally founded upon. And to deny these truths is really not helping anyone. And how can all of our other movements for equality and justice be what they need to be when the first injustice of what was done to the indigenous people here on this continent have never been even openly, you know, admitted? It's not talked about, it's not shared. Somebody had shared with me about the Holocaust, which, you know, I'm from Grass Valley. I'm not really a worldly person. I don't know the histories of other folks. I know our history here. But they were talking to me about the Holocaust, and that that history is part of everybody's life. The knowledge of what happened, They talk about it, they have museums about it so that no one will forget, so that it doesn't happen again. So we're not there yet in America. Like we don't, there's still arguments about, well, you know, most Indians died of disease or was accidental or coincidental, these kind of things. And I can tell you with absolute certainty here in my tribal family that that is absolutely not the case. It was brutal, and, you know, there are survivors. Not a whole lot of survivors, but the people are still here. It's really strange to grow up having a knowledge in your family that is the truth coming from your elders, and then to go to school and, you know, if it's ever brought up at all, that it's debated as false or exaggerated. It really, and I don't see why. I don't understand. Like it's a truth. Let's talk about it and then let's move on. But if that founding of America, the conversations around what truly happened, the truth about Columbus and who he was and how he did the things that he did, if those conversations aren't had, how can every other movement of importance have merit, have, I mean, really the levity and the weight that it deserves when that first one is still barely even talked about? So, you know, through our programs through CHIRP, we've got opportunities. Another program that I'm really proud of is the Visibility Through Art, Invisible No More, where we started having some of these conversations in our community through art. Like, what better way, you know, you don't have to talk about those hard words like right up front, but if you have a gorgeous painting or a poem that leads people into the conversation and leaves them interested, curious, and longing sometimes for more information about this other side of history that has not been reflected very well, has not been reflected at all. I can only speak of, you know, from where I live, absolute, almost complete and total erasure of the people here. So the Visibility Through Art program, the Ancestral Homeland's Reciprocity program, the work that we're doing with advocacy in the community, we just are really making some ground on our own curriculum, Nisenan Perspective curriculum, to include with some of the environmental organizations who are teaching children about salmon, the waters, you know, the environment, the forest, catastrophic forest fire. Like, the tribe has a voice and an opinion in all of these areas. And so to create our own curriculum through our lens, our voice being out there, is really the first time this has happened. And we're really excited about that. There are a plethora of other projects that we do, consulting with people. We just did a really nice program with the Nevada County Library. It's our second round, and we produced a children's book. We're doing a story map that talks about some of the towns here that are on top of Nisenan Town. We're trying to revitalize and reclaim some of the native names of places around it here that are just totally and completely erased. And I think Uba, the Yuba, what we say today, Uba River is, Uba is a Nisenan word, and that may be the only name that has stayed associated with the landscape. Educating educators about who we are and how we would like to see ourselves reflected when other people are speaking about us. A lot of times through my life, I've found myself in conflict. And as I got older, I was able to actually argue with archaeologists and anthropologists, ethnologists who, in our opinion, just miss the mark and get it wrong sometimes. Our linguist friend was one of the first people who said, if your family says it is true, it is true. And I'm very lucky to have this unbroken line of oral history that was passed down I'm very lucky. I know that a lot of that has been broken in many tribes, and it's not the tribal people's fault. You know, it's been successfully broken for purposes of assimilation, and that we are not completely assimilated in my family. Those pockets remain. And I find that those pockets of knowledge sometimes are what are in conflict with what I read in a book, or, you know, somebody's recounting of something because they were there, but they had no idea what they were seeing. So, you know, that's just a little brief smattering of the work that I do, the work that CHIRP does, and all at the guidance and desire of the tribe. What are the tribal needs? I'd like to think that once we're federally recognized, you know, we would be able to have the capacity to do a lot more of these things in a greater depth and width than what we're able to do right now. CHIRP is very small, so we're always seeking funding. So Ancestral, Homeland's Reciprocity program is one way that you can help support the tribe. Also, I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but for my birthday, you know, Facebook will let you pick a charity to raise money for. So for my birthday tomorrow, I am raising money for CHIRP, which is, if I could step outside of myself, if I wasn't me and I wasn't in the tribe and I wasn't the executive director, I'd like to think that I could look on CHIRP with fresh eyes and be proud of the work that it's doing. We have a wonderful and supportive board of directors, and I have one staff, and we do a lot with the funds that we have. We want to build capacity. I mean, if I had I always say, if just one day I had an army of staff, you know, that I could boss around and tell what to do, it would just be great. Maybe we wouldn't even need federal recognition. No, we have to have that tribal sovereignty and the ability to self-govern in the ways that we used to. But if you feel up to giving, if this has been inspirational for you at all, I have started that Shelly's Birthday Fundraiser on Facebook. You can find my page if you're not already my friend on Facebook. Feel free to friend me. You can always reach out if you have questions about the tribe, if you have ways you would like to interact, if you would have ways you would like to donate or volunteer, please reach out. You can go to either, well, we have a new website. We've been redesigning our website. So you can go to nisenan.org, NISENAN.org, which is sort of our landing page that holds the Nevada City Rancheria and Nisenan Tribe website, as well as the website for the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project. And we're also on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook. And my little fundraiser is through my own personal page, which I'm Shelly Covert. So you can find me on Facebook. You can go donate there if you want. And if that's not handy, you can just go directly to nisenan.org and you will find the donate button at the top of the page. So that's what I'm doing for my birthday. I'm exploring my association with Columbus Day. Sometimes my birthday lands on Columbus Day. Well, I feel that Columbus may be a little bit tainted, and I'm not sure that I want Indigenous people to be just like a hand-me-down of Columbus Day. It's still amazing. It's amazing. Indigenous Peoples Day should exist. It should exist in and of itself. But hey, if it's taken kind of a bad guy's name off of a national holiday, and, you know, I don't mean to be so opinionated, but sort of tipping his pedestal that's been created, it's not the type of person who should be up there. That's not the type of person we should hold up as a model for our children. Absolutely. So if you feel motivated, you know, reach out. You don't have to donate. Reach out and share with me who you are. If you are interested in finding ways to support, let's talk. We've got resource lists and different things that we can send your way if you're interested in learning more. So thank you so much for listening. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you very much.